Morning guys, 59 days, 20 hours remaining. It is a sunny day. Yesterday was a rest day. Had the funeral yesterday, which was not so, it's as enjoyable as can be. My nutrition yesterday was a bit all over the place. Had some carbs, which I probably wouldn't have had, some bread. It was more for convenience than anything else. Today I have a swim this morning, and then a bike, an hour ride, and a short transition run immediately after. So I'm just off to the pool now. Had an email from someone on Facebook, or a message on Facebook, asking me about stretching, and I don't know whether it came from one of the videos that I've posted on YouTube or a comment that I've made somewhere asking if I warm up and whether I stretch. Now, there's so many different varying advice out there for warming up, especially for endurance athletes. Because I'm immersing myself in training specifically for a long course, an Ironman, my warm-up I incorporate into the training session itself. And the reason behind it is, this, in simple terms. Because the glycogen stores are going to be used because the event is over 3 hours. What I don't want to do is exert myself or use that valuable energy source early on. So by doing a 30-minute or even a 90-minute warm-up. And ultimately there's three factors to consider. They are the ability of the individual, so the athletic ability, the external temperature, and again, some people interpret that as warming up, and there's a big difference between warming up as in getting the VO2 max and getting the blood pumping and warming up the muscles to sitting in a sauna. And the third factor, so one is external temperature, the other is the ability of the individual, and the third factor is the length of the endurance race. Now for me, if I incorporate endurance into, or the warm-up into my race, and don't go off the line quick like a sprint, it actually works relatively well. I utilise that time in the pool or in the sea in the occasion on race day to get the blood pumping, increase the heart rate, to oil the body ultimately of all of the bits and pieces it needs. That's what I'm going to do. If I was in a sprint race and needed the performance straight out the bag, then it would make sense for me to do something more. It would make sense for me to do or increase my performance ability so that I could utilise, or the muscles would be perfectly warm, the tendons would be ready, and it would minimise risk of injury, and there's enough oxygen pumping around the body. If I was doing a sprint race, that would be. But because I'm in it for the long haul, for me, my warm-up is part of the race, part of the event, which means that I consciously have to be aware of not going off too quick, to allowing the body to do what it needs to release some of that muscle soreness, to stretch some of the tendons, muscles, and all of the fibers really within the body. Because as your body repairs, the proteins effectively become stiff as it repairs. And as you start to exercise, those proteins really start to break up, stretch, which is the reason why after a small amount of time things tend to get a lot more easier. So there's 3 factors to consider when warming up, for me anyway, and I tend not to warm up for any more than 15 minutes anyhow, and I do it specific to whatever I'm doing at the time. Now, because it's a tri-sport, it's not always convenient to swim, bike and run as part of a warm-up, but I can certainly run, and then when I'm in the ocean or in the pool, I can mobilise the limbs, the shoulders, the back, the neck, the legs, the feet, even just by treading water, just to get the body mobile, oxygenating the blood, releasing any onset muscle soreness. So there's plenty of things you can do. If you were to designate or have a specific warm-up time, it needs to be relevant to the type of activity that you're doing. So for me, to answer the question in simple terms, yes, I do warm up, but it's part of my actual training. If I'm spinning for 55 minutes, the first 15 minutes will be, or I will consider, a warm-up. Get the muscles warm, oxygenate the blood, get the body working as it should. As for post-workout, do I warm down? Well, my warm down generally is done as part of my stretching routine, and I will usually stretch not within the gym or not while I'm out, but actually when I'm in the shower or in the sauna. Obviously aware of what other people are around, because the body is already warm. You have the ability, certainly in the shower, to slowly turn down the environmental temperature, and you can be still. There's no reason for you to be mobile or active or anything like that, and it is effectively at the end of your session. And I just follow through with some really basic stretches. Massage the calves, stretch the hamstrings, the quads, small amount of hyperextension in the hip region, do some bent over stretches to really realign the back, upper shoulders, just to do some rotations, and then some really basic and simple arm stretches. That seems to work for me. And I've read masses of research. There's no direct correlation between people that stretch and those that don't, as in performance. One thing I would say is, if you've been stretching for years, then continue to stretch. If you haven't, and things work for you, then why change it? The concepts of stretching pre-training or pre-event, I don't really get that. You know, your body's not mobile enough, it's not warmed up. It's like racing a car that you've just turned on. You know, with all cars you're meant to allow them to run, allow the lubricant to circulate within the engine, to the engine to warm, so that the internal workings of the engine expand into the gap that they're going to be using, so there's no seepage of oils or liquids. As we know, oil, the viscosity of oil runs a lot quicker and more freely the warmer the oil. And the same can be said to the body. You know, the idea is to not stretch something that's cold, not go off on a race fast when your body's not had time to prepare itself. Just thinking back to when I used to do my cross country years ago, 14 odd years ago, actually then, despite not having the knowledge that I do now about visualization and about the type of industry that I'm in, I used to visualize the whole process, including the warm-up. Then I used to warm up, and then I used to race, and then I didn't stretch after even then. I used to warm down literally by walking back to my car, just lowering my heart rate. For me, your body still needs to be warm after, Now again, there's lots of different advice where some people jump in plunge pools and that kind of thing, filled with ice. That's obviously reducing the external temperature, but for me, you're shocking the body. But then it reduces the lactic or the DOMS, the lactic the lactic effect for the following days. There's so much research out there. You could become absolutely baffled on what's going on. For me, it's just keeping the things simple. Warm the engine before going off, and afterwards allow the engine to settle before expecting it to do something else. But that being said, you can watch another video and people might say that you need to follow a strict regime of X, Y and Z. I can only report on what works for me and answer the questions which are relevant to me. No more than 15 minutes, incorporate into the event. Ironman specific warm up. Don't want to be losing too much energy, it's important. And if I was doing an exercise or a sprint race, I'd probably I would have a completely different answer, completely different thought process. Excuse me. But for the type of exercise that I'm doing at the moment, it makes sense to move slowly and allow the body to reach a level that it's happy to continue at for up to 17 hours effectively. So that's my thoughts on warming up and stretching. Yes, I do it. Part of my exercise, or part of the program, and then the stretch is done afterwards, slowly reducing body temperature as I do it. I think that's it for now. I've mentioned that I'm going to be doing blood glucose tests and gravity specific tests from the 50 days, so that's coming up. Also going to do a heart rate test in the morning, so during my awakened state. and just really gauge what happens there over the next, or the remaining 50 days. It's exciting, you know, we're not even halfway into the journey, and still as motivated, as excited, as passionate, as determined as I was on day one. Certain elements which are slightly repetitive, but no more so than any other activity really. You're training for a marathon, you've got to go out and put the miles in, so no more repetitive than sitting at a desk all day working on computer as part of your job. So that's it for this morning. Catch up with you after the swim. Peace out. Swim done. 2,300 meters in, it was about 42 minutes in the end. Really nice session actually. Took probably a good 500 meters to get in the zone, to feel comfortable in the pace, but once done, just, you know, got the head down, focused on the hand positioning, keeping the elbows high, the head low, the tilt of the neck right. Had a couple of twinges recently in my right shoulder, but nothing, you know, nothing to be concerned about. I think it's just the hyperextension of the swim, and I can only breathe to my left because of the flexibility of my neck, where I had an operation years ago. It's impossible for me to breathe to the right when in freestyle without lifting the whole right side of my body out of the water, which is annoying, and I'm aware of the potential issues with that, you know, waves, spotting, various other bits and pieces, but you know, doing the best with what you've got. Seem to be doing okay at the moment. Yeah, pretty happy really with the swimming aspect of my training. One of the areas I can actually see probably the most amount of progression. And keeping it enjoyable. You know, again, that's the key thing. I was just speaking to someone a minute ago. She was saying, is it becoming a chore yet? How do you keep the motivation going? Well, there's two answers really to that. If I want to finish, I can't really afford not to. The second answer, which is probably the most prolific one, is I'm doing this because I want to. It's something I said in one of my earlier videos, is nobody has a gun to my head. I'm doing this of free will. It's an aspiration that I've had of my whole life, and because of that, because it's something that I want to do and I wake up excited about doing it, then there are days where I think that I'd rather be doing something else, but you know, the activities very rarely take any more than a couple of hours. bar the longer rides. So, you know, you just get out and do. And because it's something I want to be doing, it's impossible for it to be a chore. You know, it can't be anything but excitement, happiness, commitment. All of those things come with that ability or that choice to do. And I think if it is a chore and it is a struggle and there is negativity associated with your training, I think you need to rethink or realign or revisit, in actual fact, those aspects and those choices that you made and the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. Anyway, that's it for me now. I will catch up with you later today. Peace out. Hi guys, so second session of the day done. Hour on the bike. I'd like to say that it went without issue. It was nice and simple, but I can't because I had some problems yet again with my chain. I think today it was something where it was completely different because I've had new cables fitted. On the turbo, I think I was pushing a bit too hard in between the gear shifts, and also bearing in mind that I have asymmetric rings on, so there is that element of clunkiness if you don't catch it at the right point. So I think it was down to user error as opposed to bike error. So that's it for today. This morning went really well. Bike session and the run could have been better. As you can tell, I've had a very hot shower. Had a nice and simple curry for dinner. I've already had that. Going to have something very light now, and then off to bed. Nice and early night. Got a run tomorrow. I think it's only a 6 miler. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good evening. Peace out.